This has nothing to do with me. I know what I am: a son, a brother, a man. Hold on, have I forgotten I was human also? That I have a part in this thing called humanity? That it is okay to not understand, but cruel not to care? It is day infinity of everyone wanting me dead. People are having fun, bringing lemon squares and automatic artillery to the anti-trans community meetings. Divorce legislators harangue about pedophile cults and surgery infants and whatever happened to forever ago. I am more beautiful than you, and I would like to be loved. I'm getting concerned about the monomaniacs who make their entire lives about dead naming and transvestigations. Obviously it's working, but aren't you exhausted? Don't you remember when someone loved you without knowing what you were? I am eating shortbread on a patio table overlooking the enormous green ocean. Somewhere an octopus is being eaten by an octopus and not panicking. Black dress to the floor, red acrylic nails, silver teardrop earrings, waterproof mascara. I'm excited to do this for the rest of my life and be terrified. I hear a noise behind me and I don't turn around. This poem is by Jackie Sabah, titled Having a Great Time Being Transgendered in America Lately. The poem reflects the political climate that persistently demonizes trans existence. The poet is exhausted by the relentless hate from the same avenues of attack she painfully admits effective. Despite the overwhelming sense of danger, the poet finds a scenic path towards recollection. Enormous green of the ocean, black dress to the floor, waterproof mascara. Sabah powerfully walks off the page, clutching her fear with her desire and determination for a world where trans people are viewed as the beautiful beings that they are. Trans people have always existed. In bookstores, in factories, in bars, in coffee shops, in music. Trans people have always existed. However, the trans community faced demand to tailor their stories of becomings and existence for mainstream cis legibility. This censored channel of expression has long framed a trans narrative that is shallow and generalized. In today's climate, as trans existence is amplified for production of hate and division, we must rest our ears where truth can be found and understanding can take place.
To my people that have transitioned to another plane, get free.
TRANSA, a collaborative album centered around trans and non-binary artists, provides the most beautiful space to celebrate the multitude of gifts trans people offer. The album was released under the non-profit organization Red Hot, originally formed in response to the AIDS epidemic, and has now grown to represent a range of social issues through music's narrative-shaping power. The TRANSA album features 46 tracks with over 100 contributing artists, creating an expansive spiritual journey. The project's collaboration with cis allies signals to listeners across the identity spectrum to join the bridge building to generate a wider conversation towards empathy and political change for trans community.
Get free.
The title TRANSA comes from the 1972 album of the same name by queer Brazilian artist Caetano Veloso.
Get free.
TRANSA translates to lovemaking in Portuguese, but here it is reinvented as the verb to love without limits, and as an affirmation, you are more than you know.
Get free.
This message aims at empowering young individuals exploring their gender under the oppressive capitalist society that imposes gender recognizability.
Get free.
Still, the TRANSA message is just as much for its cisgendered audience. As in the words of Eliot Kukla, trans liberation is a gift to all of us, as it expands the categories of what it means to be human. The body of TRANSA is conceptually separated into 8 chapters, beginning with the chapter Womb of the Soul, followed by Survival, Dark Night, Awakening, Grief, Acceptance, Liberation, and finally Chapter 8, Reinvention. The track that has been playing in the background is Midnight Pool from the Womb of the Soul. This chapter imagines a human soul at its infancy, raw, sheltered, and slowly gaining consciousness of emotions. The chapters Survival and Dark Night that come after the Womb of the Soul trace the themes of anxiety and fear in discovering a growing desire. This track that has been playing is titled Is It Over Now, and is the last track on Dark Night. It begins with Nisi Blue's holy voice that amplifies as it is echoed. Midway through, her voice drops and is met by a rumbling frequency that creates an uneasiness. This track continues to expand as Joy Gudri's bassoon relieves the anxious noise with her sound that seems to travel from a faraway field at dawn. Between each chapter of TRANSA are instrumental and ambient focused tracks that represent a spirit that is becoming, a spirit that is shedding and pruning. Andre 3000's 20-minute flute interpretation is one of these instrumental tracks, and it guides us into the Awakening chapter. Andre 3000's experimental sound leaves us without a clear idea of what is happening, except the fact that something is indeed happening. Something awakening. The Awakening chapter unfolds into blossoms of soft light rays under Nina Keith's track, Come Back Different. Keith's compositions are inspired by eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing, a psychotherapy method for processing trauma. Trauma is often another dimension for trans people, and this therapy method is often applied. Keith shares his experience of awakening from pain and trauma through her electronic composition. In Come Back Different, the spirit feels exuberant and confident after journeying through survival and arising out of dark night. Also in Awakening is Lorraine's track, People Are Small, Rapture, that collaborates with New York City's Trans Oral History Project. Towards the end of the track, as Lorraine sings soft and slowly, her voice levitates the question, is this rapture? As Lorraine's voice climbs higher and higher, clippings of conversation from the New York City Trans Oral History Projects are blended in. This song not only adds a slower and natural dimension to Awakening, but the collaboration sheds light on a platform that provides a space for trans people to freely share their stories and thoughts. The second half of the project journeys through themes of grief, acceptance, liberation, and reinvention. Grief and acceptance may seem strange to follow after the intense pleasure and door-opening feeling experienced in Awakening. Here, Awakening is a point of accepting the desire of the soul, or as Emerson Whitney puts it, the surrendering to one's desire. Grief can follow this bright moment as this awakened desire brings transition closer and something must be left behind. Leslie Feinberg writes in Stonebush Blues, "Strange to be exiled from one's own sex to borders that will never be home." Both grief and acceptance can be felt in Feinberg's words, who has walked away from her sex to a place where she will not feel total belonging. In the cis imaginary, transition implies the movement from uncomfortability to comfortability, but that is not often the case. To confront this assumption, I draw on Andrea Long-Chu's theory that desire and happiness are independent agents. Chu tells us that awakening and fruition of desire does not lead to direct happiness, and grief is imminent. Through this processing of grief and pain, we arrive at liberation and reinvention. Track number 44, Reinvention. This is singer Lauren Alder's reinterpretation of Prince's hit, I Would Die For You. Starting from the womb of the soul and the birth of a spirit, listeners have journeyed through anxiety, pain, and grief to reach a point of self-affirmation. Reinvention looks back at the entire journey and takes no part of it for granted. That in fact the only way forward is through perpetual reinvention of the self. As Alder sings the opening line, I'm not a woman, I'm not a man, I'm something that you'll never understand. I'm reminded of Feinberg's wish to be seen more than man or woman, but much more complex as an individual with layers and layers of what makes a person. After all, as human beings we constantly experience, and it is this experience that represents us, not the label of gender. Trans people have always existed, reinventing themselves in order to survive while pushing the boundaries of what it means to be human and what it means to love unconditionally. TRANSA is a monumental project that celebrates its gift and invites us to understand trans becoming and existence through a musical and spiritual journey. As Alder sings the lines, I am your conscience, I am love. All I really need to know is you believe. It hits home. Trans people shed the light on our collective conscience that we are human beings first and foremost, and all that is asked for us in return is to believe in their cause, their becomings and existence, and most of all, their love.
Just listen around, so be a fire when you're cold, make you happy when you're sad, make you good when you are bad. Not a human, I'm a dove, I'm a constant love. See, all I really need is to know that you believe.